Hello, my name is Ned, and I'm the host of BlackBoxOnlineRadio. On the weekends, I've been doing a debunking series talking about some of the suspects in the Zodiac killer mystery, whom I believe were absolutely not the Zodiac killer. No devil's advocate, no playing around, not trying to weigh the merit of someone else's idea, saying very directly that I do not believe this person was the Zodiac for these reasons. First, I would like to give a shout out to YouTube user the Bay77 San Francisco, who requested today's suspect, Donald Gene Harden. And if there's one suspect that hasn't been covered in the debunking series yet that you would like to hear about, and I agree with you, you can put your idea down in the comment section below, your requested person of interest, and maybe that person will be featured in this video series. To talk about Don Harden as a Zodiac killer suspect, I first need to say sorry Zepp, sorry Robert. And Don Harden becomes a suspect because he was incorporated into the Zodiac killer mystery in a different way than a lot of other suspects. Don Harden and his wife Betty were the two people who are given credit for solving the 408 cipher. The Zodiac mailed in a three-part cipher to three different newspapers in 1969: the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald. Now, it's possible that the FBI and maybe even some other organizations had cracked the code before these amateur sleuths did, but Don Harden and his wife Betty are given credit for finding the solution to the 408 cipher, the one that says, I like killing people because it is so much fun. It's more fun than hunting wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. That one. And then Don Harden goes on to become a suspect himself. It is impractical to find a Zodiac killer suspect simply because they made a discovery, simply because they were the first person from the general public to notice something. This happened in the 1980s again, when Gareth Penn made a discovery about the radians on top of Mount Diablo, and he even wrote in his own book, Time 17, that he went on to become a suspect. Just because somebody has found a discovery, or found something new, or made some type of original observation, and there's a picture of them wearing dark-rimmed glasses, that doesn't mean that they were the Zodiac killer. Some of the other points why people think that Don Harden was the Zodiac killer is that his initials can be found in the bus bomb diagram as well as in the 408 cipher. The initials D and H. You know what else has the initials D and H? Dickhead. Maybe the Zodiac killer was just calling somebody a dickhead. D and H, does that actually say Don Harden? And I don't mean to be overly harsh, but initials, you're going to have to do a lot better than that. Also, Don Harden and his wife Betty had a daughter who says very clearly that she remembers both of her parents adamantly trying to work hard to solve the 408 cipher, arranging the different pieces. And I believe the actual trick to solving the 408 cipher is you have to take the third part of the cipher, which I think was mailed to the Vallejo Times-Herald, and that part needs to go first. And then once you get the correct order, you can then decode the symbols. Don Harden and Betty Harden began to think that, well, this guy, the Zodiac killer, seems so full of himself, he probably began the cipher with the letter I, and then I allowed them to find the double L in kill, so they had killing, and then they could easily get the word like, because it has an L, a K, and that gave them an E, the most common letter in the English language. Then they were able to find the whole solution. The 408 cipher is a very simple substitution cipher. So firstly, I don't even believe Don Harden was the first person to solve the 408 cipher. It seems that perhaps the FBI, maybe some other government organizations, maybe even other people could have figured out this simple substitution cipher. Some of the other points why they think Don Harden was the Zodiac killer. He was driving a car that had this type of rounded shape on the tail light. There was a circle with a cross going through it. Not even a circle, really. A rounded shape, more like a rectangle that has kind of like a rounded edge. whatever you'd call that. I'm not really into geometry. That's not evidence of anything. Donald Harden also was a member of the Unitarian Church that has a cross that's on top of their church that has a circle with a cross going through it. That's not evidence of anything. How frequently do you see something that has a circle with a cross going through it? And firstly, are these things exclusively relevant to the Zodiac? No. I just said that it was found on top of the Unitarian Church. It has another meaning. And I don't think anyone can say with definitive certainty that there is any type of connection or influence to circles and lines and anything of the sort. This is a very simple case of looking at somebody who was the first person to do something and then trying to expand that into, well, if they were the one who made this original observation, then they must have been the killer. It's just sometimes human beings just can't wrap their minds around the fact that somebody made an original discovery. Another point is, Don Harden appeared on the show America's Most Wanted, hosted by John Walls, which is actually how I first learned about the Zodiac Killer, and maybe I even saw the same video clip as a kid, but he's on the TV, and the channel Zodiac Killer identified was hypothesizing that he was slipping in the sentence, I fool you. And he's just saying, and the biggest thing to remember is, I fool you. And talking about how, aha, this is an admission on national television that Don Harden is claiming to be the Zodiac Killer. The problem with that is, well, I have to give a shout out to YouTube user Quentin Hernandez, who pointed this out online, because it's not my own original observation, that he wasn't even saying, I fool you. If you slow down, which I did this myself, I played it at half speed, he was saying, I threw you. He misspoke. He made a mistake when he was speaking. He was trying to say, I was thrown off by, and he misspoke and said, I threw you, and then self-corrected later on. We're not perfect all the time. People make mistakes, and sometimes their utterances, and sometimes are there noises that tumble out of our mouth that don't necessarily have an enormous amount of meaning. And that would be an example of that. So I am not a fan of anyone who is going to go through the ciphers and the letters and be like, there are two letters that seem to match up to a particular suspect, particularly initials. I'm also not a fan of anyone who is going to go through and find possible symbols that may have been connected to someone else's life. And I don't mean many, many, many symbols. I mean like one, the Zodiac's cross-haired symbol, and be like, okay, well, then this has to be the Zodiac Killer because he was standing next to a circle and two lines are attached to said circle. In one of the cases, it's not even a circle. It's a rectangle with those like rounded edges or something. I will give credit to Zep from the Zodiac Killer Identify channel, which you can watch here on YouTube for free. I would recommend his videos. I've seen most of them. They're very entertaining, even though we disagree. However, I give him credit for one thing. That is the suspect that he proposed for the 1967 murder of Nikki Benedict. Nikki Benedict was murdered in Poway, California. She was 14 years old. She was walking home from a friend's house on the 1st of May, 1967, walking down a dirt pathway when somebody attacked her. Some people think that this was the Zodiac Killer, but Zeb from the Zodiac Killer Identified series proposed a different suspect, not Don Harden. And I give him credit for not just saying, okay, my Zodiac Killer suspect murdered everybody. No. Instead, he proposed a gentleman named Robert Fisk who was working nearby. Nikki Benedict actually walked through the meat market parking lot where Robert Fisk worked. He worked in that meat market. And it's Robert Fisk's son, Ronald, who was actually the first person to find Nikki Benedict's body. I highly recommend his video. Now, I'm not saying that Robert Fisk was the murderer of Nikki Benedict. There's an alternative theory out there that she was murdered by someone who had been recently released from a mental institution. And then, of course, there's the much larger theory that she was murdered by the Zodiac Killer. So, even though we seem to disagree about Don Harden, I encourage you to have a look at his channel, particularly that video. I don't think that the strongest case has been made for Don Harden. I find that a lot of it's playing around with numbers and symbols and letters and just pointing out that someone incorporated themselves into the mystery by solving the cipher. And yes, they have a photo of them wearing glasses. Not enough, not enough, not enough. Insufficient, insufficient, insufficient. Overall, it's a pretty flimsy case. But what do you think about Don Harden as a Zodiac killer suspect? You've heard absolutely everything that I have to say about him. Please put your ideas down in the comments section below. Feel free to request any other topics that you would like to hear about. And also, I will be doing a regular podcast every Monday on the Zodiac Killer here on Black Box Online Radio, Zodiac Mondays. And please look out for the upcoming series on the New Orleans Axeman. Thank you for listening, and until next time.